The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
Thursday night, December 30th, 2021, presented by Anime North. This is episode 57 of the Anime Roundtable Canada. Good evening from 6 Points, 10 minutes south of the Anime North compound in the Toronto West End. Mike Nicolas, James Austin, Kevin Ng, Mohamed Sharmarke, and Jeff Gregg with you tonight as we end off 2021. A quick reminder, you can reach us. Contact us old school, animeroundtable@gmail.com. That's our email address. We're on Twitter and Instagram @animeroundtable. Show notes and archive on our website, animeroundtable.com. We're on Twitch, twitch.tv/animeroundtable, and we're on YouTube as well. Don't ask me on that link. It's a lot of gibberish to mention here. But needless to say, there is more stuff coming soon to Twitch and YouTube.
What about TikTok, Mike? I hear that's where everyone's going to go in the future. No one's going to Google us. They're going to TikTok us, I hear.
And at that point, maybe I'm content being left behind. Okay, final episode for 2021. And we didn't really plan this one out. We just want to say goodbye to 2021. Not necessarily good riddance, because I think we had a stronger sentiment of saying that more a year ago. 2021 was rough, but 2020 was even rougher, I think.
I mean, only one of those 2 years had Spider-Man.
Well, yeah, and only one of those 2 years also had in Ontario 10,000 plus cases in a single day, because that's the basics of the COVID update.
And only one of those 2 years had Dune. Still thinking about Dune all this time, even after I saw it like a month ago.
What do you think? Read the book or watch the new movie, Kevin?
Both.
Definitely both.
I need to get around to reading it. It's just that the library has a massive wait list for it right now.
It's kind of funny how that happens, right? Like, you could have done months or years ago, and now the movie comes out. Nope, not a single copy in the system because everyone wants to see.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, where do you want to start the on-topic discussions this evening? I'm thinking already there's a few things that caught our attention, not necessarily urgent to the industry as a whole, but they're juicy and fun to talk about. Could be really interesting stuff to talk about. And then we can start looking back on 2021. So let's go through some of these headlines, not really bullets, because maybe there's one or two stories that caught our attention over the last couple of weeks that are just too interesting to ignore right now. I'm thinking that anyway. We can come back to the COVID stuff a bit later, because COVID had, especially with the Omicron variant, has nicely seeped its way into just about everything in our daily life. Well, it's not as if COVID in general has really gone away, but this is another level with Omicron. And maybe we can come back to that a bit later, because that's just hard to talk about. So let's go through a few things. Which one do you want to go with?
I guess we could talk about the one that has a lot more levity and could make us question what exactly a retirement is, and also make us feel better about ourselves, realizing that we're living probably more respectable lives than some other people in this world.
The talk of the last... How many weeks are we talking about? Or
I feel like it's been over a month, hasn't it, Kevin?
No,
or am I thinking wrong? It feels like it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a month. It just kind of came to a head in the last couple days. Runa Narumi. Who wants to start with this one? Who wants to? Kevin, James, who wants to kind of explain this one in a couple minutes? I got time to hear your take on it because you know this story better than I do.
Well,
So do you want to start with the official version there, Kevin, and then we'll seep into what could be the truth?
sure. Let's go with that route.
So there was a retirement of Runa Narumi, right, from the entertainment industry as of
Yes.
December 31st. So nothing strange there, right?
Nothing particularly strange from the get-go. The official reason was that she is in poor health, and given the events that occurred beforehand, I can imagine her health taking a hit, truth be told. So she was more of an she is, well, as of this recording, she's still employed, but she was a voice actress who voices a character in the Idolmaster Shiny Colors game. Her character was Yuika, and now with this retirement, it's her voice will be replaced. Her voice was actually removed earlier from the game, and I think they're aiming to have her voice fully replaced by April. Now, she was actually on hiatus in mid-October, and so yes, this was due to poor health, and then later on, a few days after October 15th, it was announced that she would no longer be part of her unit in Idolmaster. And this actually affected the group because they were supposed to have had a album that was going to be come out, but that got canceled. And any event that was related to that album release also got canceled. Now, she also did a couple of other minor roles. She was apparently in Interspecies Reviewers. But so the thing is that if you delve deeper into this story, you'll find out that the reason why she was put on hiatus coincide. Well, not the reason why. Well, it's probably the reason why, but her hiatus coincided with an event that happened around that time where it was reported that she cheated on her YouTuber boyfriend at the time.
Moku, I believe, is
Yeah, it was
the name of
Moko.
the and I
And
believe, unfortunately for him, he this isn't his first dance with a female that I guess he's had issues with women, unfortunately.
this would be his
This,
third instance of that, unfortunately.
but this one definitely takes the cake if you read deeper into what Runa did. So, how would you explain it, Kevin? I'd love to hear your take.
So when I first read the comments on Anime News Network, that was when I learned about what happened. So one of the earlier comments in the forum was, "Is this the 4 times VA everyone's talking about?" And I thought, what the fuck? Someone ended up linking another article. It was this person is named ZZ Top on Anime News Network's forums, but they linked an article explaining how she in fact cheated on her boyfriend with another man.
Actually, it
And
was with her ex-boyfriend.
yes, that's right.
And yeah, it was similar thing of how I found out because it seems so innocent, and then we went into the forums and found out more. But they've named the ex-boyfriend the entrepreneur because this old boyfriend, I guess, owned some different bars around Tokyo and stuff like that. And supposedly she went back to him to be friends with benefits, it sounds like.
Yes. And in that article, there was a link to a Reddit thread that also goes in depth on like the play-by-play, the supposed play-by-play of the events leading towards this scandal breaking out into the Japanese media. So there, she was cheating on him with this entrepreneur. This entrepreneur was seeing another woman, and
several other women.
Yes, there was apparently 5.
Yeah, we found that out 5, which is... Oof.
And then, so this one girlfriend contacted Runa saying that, hey, like, what are you doing? Can you please stop? Like, leave him alone. And, oh, man, reading this part's kind of like, it really, this is where, like, my opinion changed a little bit, because Runa Narumi more or less became, I don't know if indignant is the right word in this instance, but basically
I would have said she went divalicious, but that's assuming she's a diva in the first place.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, there was definitely, she thought more of herself than what she actually was, when I think the ball got rolling with the girlfriend, fiance of the entrepreneur, of the ex-boyfriend, that basically suspected him of cheating, and then went through his phone and stuff like that and contacted Narumi and asked her, please stop hooking up with my fiance, boyfriend, whatever you want to call it. And basically she went nuclear on this girlfriend, fiance. And it was kind of weird thing about that, don't you know who I am? And
yeah,
it's
I don't want to share him with a nobody like you. It's like, oh man, that's reportedly what was said.
Go ahead, Mo. I know you want to say something.
Wait, what? Oh no, I was just gonna say I feel like at that point she should have been like, well, I'm in the wrong here. I guess I should just back off. But no, she had to pull the I'm famous card when you're not really famous.
Yeah,
she definitely doubled down. That's for sure.
Runa then threatened suicide if the girlfriend leaked anything, and then the girlfriend also received death threat texts that she suspects is from Narumi's agency. We don't know if this is true or not, like whether or not it was from the agency or not, but she received death threats. And so that was when this girlfriend was like, well, fuck this, and then she took a lot of those PMs and text messages and then leaked it to a YouTuber named Kore Kore, which covers a lot of those trashy scandal stuff. And that was when this is when it broke out into the media, and the trend real NTR meaning Netorare, it was then trending on Twitter in Japan. And to those who don't know, Netorare means, it's like cuckolding, basically, where it's commonly used in hentai, but basically it's like you have a guy and a girl and they're in a relationship, and then some third party steals one of the people in the relationship away. Usually it's the girl, and then the girl ends up enjoying it, and then the guy becomes all distraught and is in despair. That's the basic premise of NTR.
It just sounds like cheating.
Cheating is kind of different. It's kind of different from cheating. Yes, it is cheating, but it's specifically the fact that, like, because to a male, in a male lens, it's like, damn, my girlfriend's being stolen, and I can't do anything about it. Oh my god, it's terrible. And then you just feel kind of bad, but then some people do get off on that. Whereas regular cheating, in a air quotes regular cheating scenario, is just you just see two people cheating, and you don't really see the third party. Like, you don't see the affected parties like suffering in the background.
That's okay. I guess that's a
And I
key
guess
part.
you can see where some of the people got off, like some of the leaks in that. Like another part of it talked about the February
Because
2021 incident where I guess Moku supposedly went to a streaming event or whatever, and supposedly Narumi invited the entrepreneur, this other guy, to the home they shared. And that's where they did it 4 times or something like that, which is kind of crazy to believe, to say the least.
And this is why so I was saying earlier how she was the 4 times VA, so then the 4 times alludes to the fact that he apparently they had sex 4 times in the span of like one day.
But yeah, once that blew up, they said that's when they started going quiet for Narumi's agency and stuff like that, and appointments. And obviously, they thought it would blow over, I guess, or something, because it kept on going, but it never did. So she finally retired. But at least Moku, the good thing about Moku, at least, is supposedly he released a video making fun of the situation and got a decent viewership boost out of it, they say. And he got some monetization, I guess, out of that, and maybe some other videos that the viewers went to.
you
But
probably got some
but
sympathy.
one day, hopefully, he'll find a good lady and stuff like that. Because unfortunately, he's had bad luck. It sounds like.
It sounds like he got some sympathy out of this. See, I look at this story, and looking back on 2021, and not really related, but when I read some of the original comments on Anime News Network without understanding there's a lot more to this story, I was thinking, like, there was a reckoning for everything concerning Britney Spears earlier this year. This is not that, is it?
No.
This is like I don't think we can. Can we paint? Can we paint Runa Narumi as any sort of victim here? Because it's certainly not flattering.
You can say that she is a victim in the sense that she lost her career over this, and if this happened in North America, she probably wouldn't have lost her entire career.
I mean, this is like a
A
Me Too
career
type situation, no?
opportunity, Kevin. That's what they call it in the West. Career opportunity.
So then, usually in situations like this in North America, you do just lay low and then you let it blow over. And then you just kind of disappear for a while, and then maybe you slowly come back. This is actually what Aya Hirano had to do, because she had her own scandal that happened years ago, and then you definitely don't see her around nearly as often as before, but she did still keep a couple of her key roles in ongoing titles. But
I would say hers was a very different type of scandal where you could feel sympathy and stuff like that for Aya Hirano. This one is kind of a different kettle of fish, I would say.
that's the thing, yes. In Runa's case, it's a little hard to sympathize with her because she was doing something wrong. She was being unfaithful, and she had her chance to not let this escalate any further, and she did not choose that route. And
Decided to
then
be a little too big for her britches, as they say.
and so and because this blew up and because she's not as established, you could see that other people would not want to work with her anymore. And these kinds of things are a bigger deal in Japan, especially amongst like talentos and celebrities and voice actresses and whatnot.
Yeah, it's just
The standards are different over there, as we
yes,
established last week.
as we've established in the past.
Kind of crazy when you think about it. I was thinking back, and you read the story, and it was similar discovery to Kevin, where it's like, okay, whatever. You go into the comments, and you're like, wow, this turned into something completely different. But the first thing, Kevin, I was thinking that I'm like, maybe this wasn't exactly a retirement, but I'm like, I wonder if it was drugs. Was it drugs? No, it wasn't drugs. It was something completely, utterly crazy.
Okay. My breath is still taken away, and I only started reading about this yesterday. Or was it the day before?
I don't think you'll have another lady like her, that's for sure, in the voice acting community quite like that, that's for sure. At least maybe she'll be a good senpai to all the younger generations that will hopefully learn a lesson.
I mean, you never know. It could happen again, like relatively soon.
Yeah.
Well, it's just when Mo says that, I start to think about, well, there is a seedy nature to the entertainment industry, generally speaking.
To certain parts, yes.
Yeah, and like I don't like there's a misogynistic aspect to it that we've always referred to one time or another, or periodically referred to on this show. And I think about that here, but it's just so hard. Like, if this was a guy, would we be saying a lot of this stuff? I'd like to think that guy would probably be raked the same way.
Well, it happened to Tatsuhito Suzuki recently. He lost many of his roles. And who did he cheat on? He had Lisa as a wife, and he still cheated.
Well, supposedly the cheating culture in Japan is a big thing, I've heard, because they have the ability to do it a lot easier than us and stuff like that with the love hotels and the clandestine meeting places and so on and so forth, and the work culture. So,
how do you cheat on Lisa, of all people? What is wrong with you?
it's just the way it goes. It's like we'll never understand it. Just like the fact that hopefully some of the bad karma went to that one guy, the entrepreneur, because it's just like, what are you doing, dude? Karma's got to knock that guy down sometime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you learn anything, Jeff, from this travesty?
I'm not sure there's anything to learn. It's celebrity gossip.
It's celebrity gossip,
It
and I
is.
guess to us regular people, it's entertaining.
Just you lead a respectable life, and you know what? Somehow things will work out.
I don't know. It's a juicy. Needless to say, this is kind of a good read, but and you can guess that there'll probably be some. I don't know if we'll hear any more exactly from this story, but I could foresee some sort of parody, some sort of storylines, fiction. It reads like good fiction, that's for sure.
What's kind of sad is that she is being memed on now.
Yes. Do we need to get into detail with that?
Well, we already explained the. Did we explain the meme itself? I thought we did.
Which part of it do you want to go with?
Oh, okay. I guess we did it.
Times, right?
So there's a meme picture of her with a picture of, I think it is the Love Live, not the Love Live, the Idol Master character that she portrays, and it says Nakadashi 4 times on it. And to those who are uninformed, Nakadashi means a man coming inside a woman without a condom. So it means coming inside of her. So and it plays into the fact that yes, she had sex with that guy 4 times in their house.
I mean, that kind of adds to the complexity of her and her relationship with the YouTuber, right? I mean, like she wouldn't let him, like it seemed a bit weird, no? That like that relationship was the way it was, but the entrepreneur got significantly more, I guess. Like, that's gotta feel bad on him, right?
Yeah, and and there was also a mention of how after that 4 times occurrence, he then asked her to take morning after pills and gave her 9,800 yen. So then people were joking and making fun of how she costed less than going to a sex worker. And I'm just thinking like, oh god, that's the internet for you, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Because
you know what? I'm trying to find the picture of those memes you mentioned earlier. It's just I thought I had them already here in my notes, but
it's in the Reddit thread. If you go to the top of the page.
I feel at this point, your earlier comments about this being misogynistic have definitely blossomed into a horrible flower of truth. Because if this happened to a man, there wouldn't be memes and comments about relating the price to a sex worker. Like, regardless
100%.
of whose fault it is, like, this has now clearly, at least from your description of the memes of it, it has clearly gravitated towards harassment and bullying.
Yeah, that's the problem I'm having with this part 100%. Of the story.
100%.
I'm not disagreeing. I think I don't disagree that that she should be held responsible.
Right.
But once you have that online vengeance and that, it takes a vicious turn that should not happen.
Yeah, and this is where I'm having trouble with this.
This is why I don't go on Twitter often. Because like you see a lot of this shit on Twitter, to be honest. And it gets pretty dispiriting.
Mm-hmm. I didn't follow the story as much as you did, but it's unfortunately bringing up ghosts of that the suicide of that wrestler and Netflix star that you liked.
Yeah, Hana Kimura.
Like that's clearly, you know, a case of more just, you know, bullying for less of a, you know, distinct reason. And I know that this individual seems to have threatened suicide, which is not a good look. But even a fake threat can turn into a real one if, you know, this bullying, you know, persists. Like, I really hope, I mean, it's Japan, so my realistic hopes of her having a good therapist are not as high as they should be. But like, I hope she has support and friends like through this, because this is really dangerous.
No, this is where I'm having trouble. Like, yeah, I mean, as I said, I read the comments, and it sounded like a lot of the commenters wanted to throw her under the bus. And there's something
they didn't want to. They already did.
Yeah, and then I read that, and yeah, it's not flattering. But at a point, when is it enough?
According to the internet, it's never enough.
Or they'll find something new to pick on.
Maybe that would be the good news, but be tough for the next person then.
Definitely the mob with pitchforks and.
But let me correct that. It's not tough for the next person. It's tough for her, whoever she is, because almost certainly it'll be a woman. Yes or no?
Probably.
Most likely.
I'm not sure there's ever been a case where, you know, a cishet man was dragged as much as a woman was. Like, maybe there'd be like, oh, yep, he's a cheater, that's bad. But like,
and lose some roles and maybe outcasted to some degree, but not shovel, shovel, shovel.
or like he would get to retire or fade away in dignity, or at least obscurity, which would provide some dignity. Like, and that's not even being, given to this woman as an option. Like, it's disgusting.
That's the part, like, there's, as I said, I'm disturbed by it. I just don't, like, I'm trying to place how disturbed I am and where specifically.
Yeah, you
And
would see this kind of harassment a lot more often with women than with men, because there have been plenty of male celebrities who
probably have
found
had even
themselves
worse.
in similar situations and did lose their careers over it. But then we just don't really hear about the harassment, if there is any. Maybe there is, we don't know, but
And men
it would
wouldn't
likely
talk
be
about it
less,
either.
it would likely be less pronounced and less visible than it would be then in a situation like this.
Yeah, so that's why, as I said, I feel I get it. She did. There was something wrong she did, but I still feel bad for her.
Yeah, it's like, yes, it's understandable that she lost her career over it, but I wouldn't waste my time, even if I didn't like this person, I wouldn't waste my time like throwing her under a speeding train and then pissing on her corpse with insults. Like, it's just like, no one needs that. No one does.
Like you said, Jeff, did Hana Kimura teach anybody anything?
And it really shouldn't take a celebrity. Like, Japan is kind of sadly known for mental health crises and suicide. Like, not known for, like, I wouldn't say it's a cultural symbol or anything, but they're known to, like, as a country, like, collectively to struggle with these issues. So if even a celebrity, death won't stop things like online bullying, I'm not sure anything can. And like, this isn't exclusive to Japan. Like, this happens all around the world, especially where social media is prevalent. But, there's an extra sting to me, if it happens in a place like Japan or South Korea, where, suicide is such a deep and problematic issue.
Yeah.
And again, there's no indication that this person is heading along that path, like, aside from the seemingly empty threats, or not empty, but like the threats that she made that seemed like they were part of this drama. But I don't think it can be ignored, unfortunately, just due to the relation with the online bullying incidents that seem to have been and seem to be happening.
I'm still speechless, to be honest.
And the problem is the online paper trails, we like to say, can be very long, and it stays there for a long time, regardless whether there's truth or lies or what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I'd say stay tuned. I think I don't know. I think the less we hear about this story in the future, maybe the better. It means that maybe she has her chance to go into obscurity.
Actually, I like what this
Fingers
one
crossed on
person
that.
wrote. I like what this one person wrote on ANN. This was Hell Soldier saying, put bluntly, it was nobody's business what she did aside from those affected by her actions directly. And some of these people who so gladly celebrate her retirement are the same who complain about cancel culture or what have you. They've lost their moral standing forever, not that they've ever had it, since they're always selective about the matter. Runa Narumi only got this for one reason and one reason alone, because she is a woman.
She should be held responsible. But no more than that, really.
So that was your fun story for tonight, Mike. What's the serious one?
Yeah, I know, that's a funny one. Boy, that got serious, didn't it? That's sort of, I guess that's sort of how. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. No, it's a good reminder that maybe our fun is not fun for somebody else. So I will be contrite in the way I introduced that story. It's interesting as an observer. It sucks to be involved. So, you know what? But as I said, got me. I have to be contrite there. So, yeah, thanks for keeping me in check on that one, Jeff. Do you want to get to something a little lighter? Just a couple more story. Is there one story worth mentioning here in this small list that came up that's maybe a little lighter than
You
that?
want a better story from Japan? You can say that conventions are coming back over there too, because they said Comiket's starting to get going, I guess, this week, and it's new, I guess, COVID form, right? And the attendees are, I guess, paying for the privilege of getting in since they've never had to do that. It's been 2 years since the last one almost, and they were taking pictures of the site the night before because remember before they had people camping out to get in there before, and there was not a soul there, and they used to have the stampedes of people for the first train, and they had people come for the first train, but they said it wasn't as bad. It was just like a regular morning rush, I would say, from what I saw. It wasn't like riding of the bulls, so to speak. But it's interesting the ticket pricing, the way they're doing it for this first time for attendees, because I guess they said they have two tickets. One which is early access, where you can get into the venue at 10 a.m. and it's 5,000 yen, and then the general ticket, which just means you get in an hour later at 11 a.m. and it costs about 2,000 yen. So that's a 3,000 yen difference, which is kind of crazy for an hour. And then they said they have a general attendance ticket for the cosplay area, which is going to be 3,500 yen. And any cosplayers requiring a changing room, of course, which some of them do, have to do a separate ticket of 1,500. And they never used to do that. And they have less people, obviously, or they are actually crowd controlling it, unlike in previous years because of COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be an impressively large event, to say the least, especially when you think Omicron and everything else happening now.
Yeah. Do you think the tickets are meant as a deterrent to encourage social distancing and crowd control, or do you think
There,
this is just a means to recover income?
there's a bit of that, I think. I know they said before we went through this whole COVID thing, remember we had the Olympics, Mike? And that the big site was going to be used in the Olympics, and they were making Olympic modifications and stuff like that to that, so that they were going to either have to move to different parts of big site or move somewhere else. So they were going to do a small ticket, not to this degree, I think, but to a certain degree they'd have to pay. And they had never had to pay before for attendees. I'm guessing how big site always made their money was through sponsors and through the people that get the tables for the dojinshi and stuff like that and the corporate tables. So that must have been quite a bit of money. So it's interesting that they even got people to go for the ticket prices and stuff like that, because I know for a lot of Japanese people, for some of the items they buy and stuff like that, if it's a small price increase, they may just cut it off and say, "Nah, I don't need this." Like they have that set price mentality, right?
There's that deterrent.
Well,
It could be I'm not going to say sign of things to come, because I think it's just another thing in that pot. There isn't. I don't know. This doesn't. I mean, I have no clue really what to say about this.
I could see it being paid from here on out.
Yeah, like I could see them if they do enough, they might try to do a more paid and get some more revenue because definitely there are definitely costs to running a massive event on that scale because it's just like a ridiculous amount of people. I don't know how they did it before because it just looks like a zoo almost.
And it'll probably still be a zoo to some degree. I could foresee a lot of people wanting to go. Still, it's that type of thing, right?
And I'm sure they have like I guess barriers for people when they go to the tables and at certain things and stuff like that. So it's definitely not as normal. And I guess that's a step up from what they had before because I guess when they were doing the handshake events and all those other things for the past few years, they've been doing that virtually. So
And when's the second one supposed to be? There's two a year, right? The other's in the summer.
yeah, so they have the end of the year, then they have the summer ones. So in the summer.
Hmm. I guess the summer one will tell you how much they like the
So
system.
the last
Yeah.
one they had was 2019 end of there. And then, of course, we hit COVID in March, so that's when everything hit the fan, so to speak. And I know the 2019, that's where they were talking about the overnight camping in near freezing conditions. And I think they said about 1,000 people were huddled together just to trying to get into that Comiket 95 convention, which is kind of intense to think about 1,000 people just so focused to get into one building in near freezing weather.
Yeah. Okay. So when does Comic Head run this time around?
It should be running around now because they had the actual stuff going forward because it's December 30th to 31st. So we're in the
2 days
future
before
now,
the.
so they're probably already in there in the 31st already.
Mhm. Yeah, it would be what? It will be just afternoon there, actually, on the 31st, as we're taping this. But okay, maybe some amusement, but certainly not as serious as the first story we had.
Uh, they definitely didn't have what they had in the last in-person one in December 2019 because that was where they had the record across 4 days. That was 750,000 people across
Three
4 days.
three
No,
quarters of a million people. That's like what, twice the size of Comic Con?
yeah, it's like you think about that, and they added stuff obviously for the Olympics. So God only knows if we didn't have COVID-19, if they were going to try for 1 million, who knows?
Who knows? Okay.
Well, maybe that gives us hope for the future that we'll see Anime North this year, as they say.
Well, I will. More to come on that in 2022, I'm sure. But we do have to finish 2021 first. Okay, I think those are some interesting stories to have talked about. I still feel bad about the Runa Narumi. That's going to stick in my head for a little while. I'm not going to live that one down. How we approached it, but there are other things, and as mentioned at the beginning, it is the final episode of 2021. Kevin, you had an idea about how we were going to end it off. Give me a thought. Like, I want you to lead us on this last part tonight.
So I was thinking about this in the last couple days, and uh, part of this was stemming from how a month, like it's been almost a month since I've seen Dune, and I still think about the film a fair bit, and it really did leave a strong impression on me. So I was just wanted to throw this question out there that I was wondering to all of you, was there anything this year, whether it was a news piece or a media, some sort of media you consume that really left a strong impression on you, and why?
Hmm. Okay, well, I guess we go once around the table on this one. Dune was yours, but is there anything more anime manga related that you want to bring up, Kevin, to start?
Yeah. Few things really override Dune right now in my mind, but huh. I'm trying to think here. Like, well, one recent manga that I read was E's Eternal Sabbath, and that is by Fuyumi Soryo, who created Mars. Mars was a shoujo manga from the early 2000s that was previously released by Tokyo Pop and then summarily blew up this year because of TikTok. And I was thinking about Mars, and then I kind of thought about how, oh yeah, I always wanted to finish reading E's, but never got around to it. And during the summer, I chanced upon a complete set of the manga for a good price, so I jumped on it, and then I joined an online group read for E's this month, and it's interesting for me to see how mature the main cast was, because I usually do read a lot of shonen and shoujo manga, and these titles are normally geared towards younger audiences, so there's a certain maturity level that gets met in those titles. But it was refreshing to see adults just sorting out their feelings, explaining how they feel, and they're not always thinking irrationally at every moment, at every waking moment, but they realize they make mistakes, they apologize. It was just very refreshing to see, like, two characters just communicating so well with each other, and that was, I know it's kind of weird to say this, but I was like, wow, like, man, I haven't seen this happen in quite a while. and uh and Ease is a very interesting manga because it is a seinen manga, and there's a lot of very defining moments that happen in that series, and a lot of very well planned out full page and double page spreads that really kind of took my breath away at times, because Ease is a manga that's about a woman who encounters a man who has psychic powers. And they soon meet another person who also has psychic powers, who's younger, but is more or less a child. So then, because they were treated unfairly, they want to lash out at the world. And this other psychic named Isaac, at different points of the series, takes over the minds of different characters. And this is a spoiler, but at one point, Isaac controls the mind of one of Mine Kujo, the main character's best friends. And so there's a scene that really kind of wowed me where Kimiko is chasing Mine with a knife, and they're in a playground. But the kids don't see this at all. For whatever reason, the kids don't see this. So it's just a 2-page spread of, like, a woman with a knife chasing after another woman trying to kill her. And it's just very, like, striking. Like, there was Soryo does some pretty good paneling and, like, moment for moment shots as well. And it was really cool to just kind of analyze the manga in a more critical lens. So, and I was also at a point where, like, I really wasn't reading a lot of manga as of late. So it was really nice to hunker down and, like, knock a series off of my to-read list too. It's a little hard to find now, though. That's the thing. Because it's out of print now.
So who published that? That was Viz?
That was Del Rey.
Oh, back in the day.
Oh.
Yep, this was a Del Rey title before Kodansha. took it over.
Was it a completed Del Rey series?
Yes, it was,
Okay.
or
I'll look
is.
that one up. We'll have to look that one up. All right, but thanks for that thought as just something that stuck out. Who wants to go next? James, Jeff, Mo. One thing that you would like to say was a highlight watch.
I really enjoyed Cowboy Bebop this year.
When you finally saw it.
No,
What about Spider-Man? You were
I
talking
mean-
about Spider-Man all this time.
I feel like Spider-Man is kind of like not topic specific based on the podcast we're currently on.
Well, if it really wowed you, I don't see why you can't talk about it.
I mean, it was good. Just I think I enjoyed the experience of watching Spider-Man more than I liked the movie Spider-Man.
I see. Because for me, there wasn't much of an experience to Dune aside from the fact that just the music and the sound was amazing. Like the audience was fairly quiet, whereas with Spider-Man, I can imagine the crowd being riled up at points.
Very much so. I mean, has anyone else on the panel seen it? Jeff, I know maybe
have not had the chance yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe at some point.
I kind of want to see it now because of Zendaya. Now that I've seen Zendaya in Dune, because I actually had no clue who Zendaya was prior to Dune.
Now you do. She's more than Tom Holland's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's the opposite way around. He's her boyfriend.
Yes. Okay, so what do you want to say about Cowboy Bebop, though?
Oh no, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed the lead up to it, the while it's happening, the debacle afterwards, the cancellation, the whole everything around it. It was one of those things where it's like an event.
And now to clarify, you're talking the live action, not the anime.
I mean, yes, exactly, the live action. But it was just an event, It was like the lead up, the hype, and then, what we got, which I liked more than others, but still.
And they stuck with everything, even with their lead character getting injured on set. So, and that doesn't always happen, right? So,
I mean, every time I remember that the show was delayed, like what, a year and a half, 2 years almost, because of that injury. I mean, wow, if they had released this in like 2020, would people have been more hyped for it? Like, I feel like timing might have helped, maybe, but I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was a high point of the year. Anime wise.
Well, live action wise, but certainly along the lines of what we talk about.
True.
Jeff.
So I have two, but I'll be efficient. The first one is no one's surprise of the release of the Shaman King, relaunch, reboot, anime. And not so like the series itself, it's have issues. It's a little bit rushed, but it's still really nice to see the sort of manga version animated. When it comes to the Netflix dub, a lot of the original 4Kids voice cast was brought back, which was really great. It's the music, which was one of the sticking points as to why there hasn't been a reboot until now. Has been really good as well. Solid A's across the board. They even incorporated the original opening in one of the early episodes, which was great. But the thing about Shaman King that really relieved me, sort of pre-launch, was that I had this fear going into it and this uncertainty regarding the character of Joko. Who is the African-American main character of Shaman King. And I was terrified as to what was going to happen. Because he has the sort of Japanese mangaka style that was, popularized years ago of what I call the donut lips. And I really didn't think that should fly in 2020, 2021. But there are defenders including African Americans of that style. I think it has, unfortunately, a really dark history behind it, but there are defenders of it for whatever reason. And I think that a lot of that defense is that the character should be depicted with specifically large lips. And, it's a little bit mixed whether that is still the case in the new design. But the new design for Joko, who has a different name in Japanese, also, there's a reason why it was changed to Joko. They the lips are not depicted in that donut style, especially for profile views. They are still there's still fullness to them, but it is now respectful as far as the art style, which was a huge relief to me. And I'm so glad they did it. Of course, there's going to be criticism. I don't care. I think it was definitely the good call. And I guess on a more purely positive note, I think one of the most exciting and fun moments for me was the reveal of the final Super Smash Bros. Fighter, which was Sora from Kingdom Hearts. I never was the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan. I've never played any of the mainline games. I remember seeing a commercial on TV. It's an old technology that some of you may remember, for Kingdom Hearts on the PlayStation 2. And I was so excited for this game, and I didn't have a PlayStation 2 at the time. I eventually did get a PlayStation 2, but never even bought Kingdom Hearts. But I'm not even the biggest Disney fan, but there was something special about this game. I had the openings, Japanese and English, on my mini disc player or burned CDs. There was something magical about this franchise, and the impossibility or seemingly impossibility of a Disney character joining this video game celebration. It seemed very slightly possible, but, how could it happen? And when that trailer started and it became more and more obvious that the final character was going to be Sora, I was excited, despite the fact that I don't think I've turned the game on, even though I have all the DLC. But it just the spectacle of the announcement, and when Sora comes out of the keyhole, and an instrumental version of Simple and Clean plays by Hikaru Utada, who recently, or in the last year, became probably Japan's most high-profile non-binary person, not even artist. And it's such a beautiful song, and it's not in the game, but they managed to get it for the trailer. And just the joy and how happy it made so many people, that even me, who only has played the PSP game and the Game Boy Advance game, and again, didn't turn on Smash Brothers since the DLC came out, I was still floored and excited for other people, and I could feel the positivity. No other character would have had such a universal appeal and brought joy to more people. And, again, with Utada, Hikaru, adding that sort of extra layer of I guess magic, at least to my viewing experience, with that song, that has to be maybe, if not my highlight of the year, at least my Japanese pop culture related highlight of the year.
And it's an interesting one. Maybe I should go see. You make me want to see that reveal now. I presume it's on YouTube.
Simple and Clean was playing in my mind as you were talking about Sora and Kingdom Hearts, Jeff.
It's such a great trailer. Like, they managed, there's little bits of gameplay, sprinkled in there, so it is still advertising the fighting game, but the CG is spectacular. It's all in a black background, but it's still haunting and beautiful. perfect way to end, Masahiro Sakurai's like arduous trial of a masterpiece of a game collection game thing. Like,
Well, I think he said he finally succeeded in doing what Iwata wanted him to do, and hopefully the man can get some rest, right?
yeah,
And people
exactly.
will stop dissecting his tweets. It's like, he's gonna be in Smash. No, that person is.
I loved his tweet with like a bunch of Among Us toys and his cats, and he's just like, I'm so glad Smash is over so I can post this without having to deal with the, reaction to it. So I definitely am happy for him. I hope he is able to relax. Definitely deserves it after all the work that he put into this game, plus all the DLC.
I hope he can play all those consoles he has in front of his TV, because of COVID we got to see his setup, and he has quite the setup.
Okay, James. One thing for you. Where do you want to go?
There's there's many things to think about. I think about last year how I was thinking about the big thing to me. I was looking back and I had talked about, remember earlier in 2020, I got hyped over the PC Engine Mini, and it was great playing those old games and stuff like that. And it makes me think going into 2021, and I was looking at one series and then a book looking at retro Japan games. So on the book side, there was Japan Soft and Oral History, which was released by Read Only Memories. It's a boutique bookseller of video game books and stuff like that in the UK. But Japan Soft and Oral History, they did a compilation of interviews, and they did some new interviews for this. It was based off 3 volumes called The Untold History of Japanese Game Developers by John Panic, I believe his name is. Sorry if that is wrong, but he did that off of a Kickstarter. But he went to Japan. He did these interviews with these different Japanese game devs. A lot of them were guys that were making games in the 80s and then early 90s and late 90s. So we're talking about early Japanese video games and console games all the way up to, I'd say, 2000. So we're talking PS1, Dreamcast, and N64, stuff like that. And so we're talking even about the pixel artists in that. And it was just interesting reading all these different views that they had never talked about before. We're talking about early Falcom. We're talking about, there was a lot of PC culture, and you never think about PC gaming in Japanese gaming. You always think about console gaming or mobile gaming, and they talk to a lot of people from Falcom and all those other ones that got their start through PC and stuff like that, which is interesting. And with Japanese PCs and stuff like that, they talked about the PC-88 and all those other variations, which is just absolutely insightful and stuff like that you never would have heard from. And it's like these crazy bubble era stories, right? Because during the 80s, like, things were just kind of crazy. But
That's it?
the last one, if you want, that was commemorating this year is Cotton, celebrating 30 years. And so they had quite a few games come out this year. So they had the Western version, that was the remake of the first game, Cotton Reboot came out, and that was on Switch and PS4, and I played that in spray, and that was fun. They then had the Saturn Tribute edition that came out over here digitally, in Japan physically, with Cotton 2 and Cotton Boomerang, which was fun to play, even though they had some emulation issues. But the Saturn is notorious for that. I think they're fixing that in a month or two. And then Inen as well decided to release 2 digital ones only, but Cotton 100%, which was, I believe, SNES Cotton game, and then the Cotton Panorama game for Sega Genesis that had never come out here on PS4 and Switch. That one's interesting because it's like Space Harrier, so it's kind of 3D like. And so it's interesting. It's not a regular 2D shoot 'em up or shoot 'em up of the early 90s variety where we're not having bullets go everywhere. We're just trying to get the best score we can. And it's great to play those games again. And then the reason why is this week I got in the mail and I've been playing for the past 2 days or so is from Japan, Cotton Rock and Roll. And so this is the newest game in the series, the culmination and the celebration of 30 years that Success decided to release. And you can tell they really put it in there. They have all the elements those older games had for the regular stages. Plus, for Panorama, what they did for the bonus stages is they did that Space Harrier 3D aesthetic to go through. And then for the heck of it, I don't know why, but they added special Japanese guest characters from other video games that you could play as and stuff like that, that add this weird style to going through this game. And then you have the funny story of Con trying to get the willows, the candies, and that throughout the game, which she does in every game.
Retro is always you, though, James.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm not giving much money to the gaming industry the way it's been going for many years, right? I guess the next frontiers we keep hearing next year is, what is it, NFTs or something to that effect, but
Oh my
we'll see what
god,
happens.
no.
Hopefully as long as they can keep on making these smaller games and stuff like that, and the Japanese devs can find some places where they can release their games. Like I know a lot of them have went to Switch and stuff like that, and the PS4 still has legs, right? So people are still releasing games for that on the Japanese side. So as long as they release, I will gobble them up.
Yeah, for me, just to your point, and James, I get the feeling 2022. I'll continue my rediscovery of certain style console games, whether it's recent or older than that. I mean, we joked around about last week about me getting a PS5, which by the way, there's a part of me that's really, or not so seriously thinking about putting the thing on the balcony and seeing who comes up. The
Well,
Spider-Man
if
chat.
it disappears, Mike, you know why.
Yeah, you succeeded.
You're saying Spider-Man is real? Basically, that is the test.
Well, Spider-Man's been arrested.
More like I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah. Anyway, so I get the feeling. Oh, and just for reference on that topic, and upon Kevin's suggestion earlier, I did choose to return Ghost of Tsushima and Ratchet and Clank earlier before taping because I just came to the realization I'm not going to open them up anytime soon. So I'll get them again when I'm ready to.
I guess the only thing I would let you know, Mike, on that is, especially if you're looking at it digitally for some of those games, especially since they're all having year-end sales, right? For PlayStation, for Nintendo, and then for Xbox and stuff like that. Is that some of the devs, yeah, they'll go low and they'll may have lower prices in the future, but there are definitely some devs that they've went the Nintendo route and found a niche where they say, you know what, we're going to lower it to this price, and that's what you're going to get come hell or high water each sale and stuff like that. Because I've seen Way Forward and their lowest and consistent, for example, River City Girls, which you talked about, Mike, 30% for the last few sales and stuff like that. And they've been consistent with that and some of their other games, for example.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So it's a good game to get, and I think that would be a good one if you do want to get, since you like it, and it'll be a good thing to do, since remember next year, Mike, River City Girls 2 is coming out at some point, and then early in the year they're going to do River City Girls 0, which is, I think, kind of a redo of the 1994 SNES game, I believe, but they're adding comic scenes, like manga scenes and stuff like that to it for Way Forward.
Yeah, so just things to think about for later on. As I said, I just know Ghost of Tsushima and Ratchet and Clank will wait and can wait.
So
Okay,
you're going to play Spider-Man then?
No, I'm gonna get back to Yakuza.
Ah,
And this time I'll probably get 60 frames per second. Symbolically, however, I probably won't as of this moment, the PS5 hasn't been opened, and neither has that the new computer. I guess symbolically, those will debut in 2022 for me and for everybody else. But looking back on 2021, if you're gonna ask me one thing I'd like to mention, it's sort of a journey going back to the past and helping me discover something, albeit a few years back, something from a few years back, more specifically. When I did that on my mind and told the story of Kozo Murashita and his song Hatsukoi and how it had been covered numerous times and how it found itself on a couple different anime soundtracks. In the process, I discovered Tsukigakire, the 2017 romance drama. And anybody who listens to this show and has listened to me enough over the years knows I can be a bit of a sucker for romance anime. Kimigori Orange Road, Maison Koku, most notably. They might be, or arguably, in my own top 5. Plus one other title which we mentioned last week and will not be mentioned any further, at least in this episode.
Itsudate My Santa?
It was awesome, by the way, in comparison. Love Hina, I know it would be up there in terms of early aughts stuff. Late 90s, early aughts. Toradora, probably up there in late aughts. Tsukigakire, I would always argue, probably would be something in that range, albeit more of a drama, but for mid to late 2010s. And watching that story and watching it on Crunchyroll, the way it went is stuck in your head. And it was to me, it was such a simple story. Didn't try and be comedic, didn't try and be slapsticky, supernatural. It was just a simple story that ultimately, it was really slice of life to me. And I really appreciated seeing that. So that's the one thing that stuck out to me. Nothing spectacular. Probably nothing that it's not a huge franchise by any stretch. But I certainly enjoyed it and certainly enjoyed the investment of the 12 episodes in watching that. But that's really all I got to say. If you're going to ask me on one thing, and there was a lot to have watched in 2021, because heavens knows I had the time to watch it, whether it's the JFF Plus or discovering a few more things on Crunchyroll or going through Demon Slayer and seeing what all the hype was about. And I've yet to see the movie, strange enough, but I guess that's on the queue.
Well, you can just watch it on Crunchyroll now because
yes,
the movie is now broken up into episodes.
Well, and the movie itself is there too. So that's an option. It's just that, once again, I probably haven't given myself the time. Just as much as I haven't given myself time to continue Yakuza. No matter how much I've talked about it, it didn't get touched at all in 2021, and I hope that'll change in 2022. But let's finish up 2021 first. Before tonight, I decided to look through my notes on the last episode we did in 2020 and wondered how much had changed between then and now, yet again, as this pandemic thing rolls along. I looked out at what we set to do in 2021 and now look back on it and wondered if much was accomplished. The conclusion I've come to in relation to this podcast is sort of where we are with COVID right now. We've made some progress, but maybe not enough. When it came to COVID, we had vaccines, but getting them was slow. Oftentimes, the lineups for those things, like self-testing kits, resembled more like a lineup for concert tickets. Places opened up slightly, We had gatherings which got bigger as the year went, even got to the point where one politician out west in Canada basically lashed out at a reporter when questioning summer reopening plans, basically saying, COVID is over. Then our signals got crossed. Some of us worked again, but it only lasted for so long. One minute we're told to be weary as the weather got warmer because it gave people more opportunity to go out and spread the virus amongst each other in close contact. Then 6 months later, as the weather got colder, we're told to be weary of going inside because it would give people more opportunity to go in and spread the virus amongst each other in close contact. Different waves and variants came and went and still continue to this moment. Despite our best attempts and efforts, the pandemic is here and still hitting hard. But we have made progress. Many of us have made efforts and done their part, gotten vaccines, or made painful choices about who we choose to hang out with, and dealing with the emotional tolls of those we didn't. We tried to understand more. We learned how to deal with things without safety nets because, honestly, those safety nets were gone. In many respects, we're just a little wiser and battle-hardened too. So as we continue to deal with this current wave, all we can do is know that it will end, and we'll deal with what happens after. When it comes to this podcast, I'm not totally sure we accomplished what we set out at the beginning of the year. We rethought a few things, but really didn't have too many guests. We tried out a new theme song, but it was really a stock piece you can find anywhere. We returned to Anime North, but maybe weren't the best prepared for it. We finally started doing a more video version of certain parts of the show, but that was pretty much at the end of the year, and somehow we only had one on my mind. But here's the thing. Pandemics historically do take a few years, so for those of us living through the present one, we do have more to go. Anyone hoping to make history in that sense were more likely to be history instead. And so goes the podcast. It will always be a work in progress, trying to find its own way too. Almost 2 years into the pandemic, it would now be foolish to make too much in the way of predictions. It certainly wouldn't be wise to predict something miraculous, like the end of said pandemic. But I don't think we're headed for a cataclysmic disaster either. But the one thing we can do for sure is just keep going. Understanding we'll drop our share of things as we do things along the way. But also maybe pick up a few things along the way too. So for us going into 2022, all we can do is keep going as well. And maybe pleasantly surprise you with the more subtle things we're going to introduce. But who knows? Maybe it will be more than the sum of its parts. Our promise is always the same. To make sure that those of you who feel like taking the time to hear our little odd takes on the anime, manga, and Asian pop culture world feels like it wasn't a waste of time to do so. And maybe try to get a few more people to spend some time with us too. So the takeaway I got in terms of 2021 is that it's okay to have some sort of skepticism. And who wouldn't after almost 2 years? But sometimes you have to try a few things to get it to happen and not wait for them to happen. And that the path to better is never straight and can be narrow. But really, it never closes. That's all we have for tonight and 2021. So once again, we want to hear from you. animeroundtable@gmail.com, @animeroundtable, animeroundtable.com. As always, word of mouth is always appreciated, so tell your friends about this show if you think they'll like it. And don't forget, since you can do it on Spotify too, you can leave us a review wherever you're seeing or listening to this. Because reviews and good reviews will help us maybe get exposed to people who will be interested in watching us. And what type of reviews are we looking for, Kevin?
We're looking for 5-star reviews because that way we can become more visible to people who are looking for anime podcasts to listen to, and it will bring more awareness to us if so. So if you do listen to us, please take a couple minutes of your time to give us that highly coveted review. Thank you.
We typically do episodes once every other week, but obviously that's changing and hopefully will be a lot more frequent than that in 2022. So if you don't want to miss anything, subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitch or Twitter or Instagram so you can be notified whenever we do add something new to the feed. Also, in the meantime, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts and check out our playlist on Spotify, which has music inspired by many of the things we talk about here. So until next time, that's it for 2021. Thanks for listening. Yoi otoshi o umuke kudasai. And cross safely into the new year. Okay, that's an end, right?
Yeah.
Went serious at the end right there.
Yes.
Well, I tried.
I liked it.
I tried.